before I jump into previewing both NXT TakeOver Toronto and Survivor Series 2016, I want to talk about the recent show that I just did. I did a live stream of myself basically watching and reacting to Aztec Warfare 3, Lucha Underground's latest episode. And it was the first time I'd ever done a live stream. You can check it out on my channel if you haven't seen it already. I enjoyed doing it. I definitely want to do more live streams. Obviously, I was not very proficient and obviously not very polished at doing live shows. One of the reasons I like to film myself prior to posting the video is that, you know, editing allows for a lot of fixes, and you know, you get to clean up the video quite a bit, but I did have fun doing the live stream, and I definitely want to do more of them, but a couple lessons learned that I need to work on for sure to improve as I continue to do those. One of them, the most obvious of which being that make sure that, this is something that I need to do, I need to make sure that I have enough material to fill the time that I have allotted for the live stream. For example, the first half hour of the live stream, which was a half hour before Aztec Warfare even started, I basically only had 10 minutes worth of material for a half hour, so those of you who tuned in for that first half hour, you were treated to watching me watch Red Dawn and eat pizza. That was the extent of the material. I mean, I think I previewed Aztec Warfare a little bit, but then it just felt like there were long stretches of me just watching TV and eating pizza, which obviously is not very good for you guys, but I wasn't prepared enough to have enough material to last me a full half hour. So that's something I need to work on, definitely. But I think I could turn this into something helpful for my channel. Something, and hopefully fun for you guys. You know, maybe I can start doing Q&As this way. The old way I've been doing Q&As is kind of archaic, especially with all the editing that goes into it. So if I could get the live streaming thing down, I could definitely turn that into a Q&A or something. But I don't have any live streams planned in the near future, but I definitely want to do at least one more before the end of the year. So fingers crossed, hopefully I have the time and the energy and the ability to do that, and hopefully you all are entertained by it and actually want to see that from me. But with all of that said, time to jump into NXT TakeOver Toronto, and yeah, NXT's latest TakeOver special. All of the TakeOver specials to date have been at the very least good, so I'm not worried about the show being bad at all, and looking at the card, I think it has a chance to be quite good. Actually, a lot of really good matches on there, particularly on the tag team side of things. We've got the finals to the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. The Authors of Pain, Razor and Akam, managed by Paul Ellering, taking on the hot young tag team of TM61 with Nick Miller and Shane Thorne, I believe their names are. They really did a good job with the Dusty Rhodes Classic, making it mean something and making it matter, and also using it to build other stories. They introduced Sanity, who is their new stable led by Eric Young, who will hopefully evolve into something good. Well, I know what they're going to evolve into. They're going to evolve into that next stable that the WWE moves up to the main roster and fucks up. But for NXT's purposes, it'll be interesting to see what they eventually grow and develop into. They also built the Bobby Roode, Ty Dillinger feud through this tournament. They also built the Cedric Alexander, Andrade Cien Almas feud through this. They built the Revival, or they continued the Revival DIY feud through this too. So, you know, it's kind of like what I talked about with Aztec Warfare and some of the opportunities that WWE has been missing with the Royal Rumbles in recent years, in that you can have multiple stories going on, especially when you have so many wrestlers under this umbrella and involved in this tournament. You can build other stories and develop other characters. It doesn't have to be one singular focus the entire way through. That way multiple people benefit, not just the two finalist teams. Like I said, you got the Rude Ty Dillinger match out of this. You have a Cedric Alexander Andrade Cien Almas feud out of this. They just had a match on NXT that was good, and I think there's more room to continue that story. They introduced Sanity. They did a lot of cool things with it. So it wasn't just The Authors of Pain power their way through the tournament, and TM61 are the underdogs. They got multiple stories going on at once. So I thought they did that really well. But for right now, we've got the Authors of Pain, who have been this thing that I love, bruiser tag teams. I fucking love powerhouse bruiser tag teams that beat the shit out of people, and that's what the Authors of Pain are, and they are fucking great. And I think having Paul Ellering with them gives them a certain level of credibility that definitely adds to the overall act. And I think so far they've been great. And if it were up to me, I'd have them win the tournament, because I just think that there's plenty of room to eventually build them up and have them win the NXT tag titles and be kind of the new Ascension, possibly even a better version of the Ascension, where they just dominate and destroy everybody. TM61, from what I've seen, they seem pretty well, seem pretty good. They work well together. I wouldn't be surprised if they won, but for me personally, I think they can get more out of an Authors of Pain victory. But I think a lot of it also has to do with who wins the NXT tag title match, which I'll get into that now. The Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, taking on DIY, the pairing of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. The last match these two teams, the last couple matches these two teams have been outstanding. They work very, very, very well together. Like I said, they've been outstanding whenever they worked with each other. And the Revival seems to have great matches with everybody. You look at their matches with American Alpha. You look at their matches with Enzo and Cass. They've been great, and pretty much ever since they formed. I think it was it the Dusty Rhodes Classic last year where they first actually started doing stuff together and actually formed. And whenever it was a match made in heaven. And Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder have been a great old school. I mean, the Revival is a great name for them because they're a great old school style of tag team. I mean, you could just see them fitting in right at home in the NWA with teams like the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express and the Four Horsemen and the Legion of Doom and stuff like that. They would have fit right into that era. And I just love watching them. I think they're great. Now, who wins this? 2 out of 3 falls? I could see them giving it to Ciampa and Gargano. And that's one of the reasons I'm thinking Author of Pain wins the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, because then that'll kind of set them up to be the next challengers. And they've been unbeaten up to this point, and now Gargano and Ciampa are going to have to go up against the seemingly unstoppable team. So that's where my mind is heading. So, and I think it would be satisfying if Ciampa and Gargano defeat them, because they've been kind of the scrappy underdogs of NXT. And I think this match is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be the best match on the show. I have no reason to think otherwise. I think it's going to be great. So, awesome stuff there. Now into singles competition, we've got Bobby Roode taking on Ty Dillinger. I already talked about it a little bit, how the feud was built up during the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, where Bobby Roode walked out on Ty Dillinger during their match with Sanity, which was Sanity's introduction. Again, layers! Layers are good! It's a good thing. There's cause and effect, and the different characters are affected in different ways. It's fantastic. I love that stuff. Or as the member berries would say, it was fantastic! It was fantastic! But anyway, yeah, I'm excited for this match. I think it could be the potential sleeper hit of the show. I don't think people have too high expectations of it, but I think this could be a really, really good match. Bobby Roode, I've always liked him. I love him. I loved him in TNA. I've been singing the dude's praises for years, and the Glorious thing has just taken on a whole new life in NXT. And Ty Dillinger, this to me is his... This could potentially be his breakout match. Like, this could be the match that, puts him on the map, because he's kind of been one of those guys that's hung around for a long time, but never really broke through and became anything that special. And I think this is his chance to really make a mark and really become something special. And hopefully it works out, and hopefully these two are able to have a good match with each other. If I had to pick, I'd probably think that Roode would take it. But, I could also see it going either way. But for right now, I'm picking Roode. But wouldn't be surprised if Ty took it. And I wouldn't even be upset if Ty took it. Because it's like, I think they've finally gotten him to a place where the fans are starting to accept him. And now it's kind of, they got to start thinking about the future and where they can go with him. So, again, we'll see how that all turns out. For the NXT Women's Championship, we have Asuka defending against the returning legend that is Mickie James. Mickie James, who is one of my big wrestling crushes, for those of you who know me. Yeah, this was a good move on NXT's part, mainly because it's symptomatic of the problem that I talked about earlier I think at the last TakeOver special, where, Bayley got moved up, and then obviously Sasha and Charlotte and Becky and all them got moved up, and then during the draft, they lost Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Nia Jax, and I think one other girl. And those were the girls that I thought were going to take over the division once the 4 Horsewomen were all gone, and they all got moved up. So it was like the NXT Women's division basically got wiped clean, with nobody but Asuka. And it was like, okay, who is Asuka going to work with? Because none of these girls are ready to be on her level. The obvious answer is Ember Moon. She's the one that they seem to be building a mystique into, although they had her talk last week on NXT, which I thought was a mistake. To me, she should be more mysterious and kind of an Undertaker type. But they had her talk and she sounded normal and just like any other girl. And I was like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. They should have kept that mystique around her. But it's obvious to me that Ember Moon is the one that's being set up to face Asuka, and it would have been so easy to just rush it to this TakeOver special, but I feel like, no, she's still new and hasn't been built up enough. I think they still have some work to do to get her ready for that spot. So I think, in the meantime, bringing back Mickie James to work with Asuka, presumably put her over, because I have no reason to think that Asuka's dropping the title here. It'll give Asuka another win. Hopefully, they'll have a good match with each other. Again, I don't have any reason to think that they can't have good matches. Last time I saw Mickie work, she was pretty good. So, it's, we shall see. But, again, this is more about, all right, we need to get to Asuka versus Ember Moon, but maybe they should save that for the next TakeOver special. I was glad that they did. They're letting it simmer and grow and develop, and they're not just rushing it to the next TakeOver special. And again, it's that level of patience and that level of thinking that puts NXT above the main roster most of the time, which is shocking to me. NXT is one of the most frustrating shows to watch because I know that the main roster could be like this, and they refuse to do it. They just absolutely refuse. So instead we get this boring, homogenized bullshit every week that's just almost impossible to watch. It's boring. I'm sorry. And that goes for Raw and SmackDown. Both shows are fucking boring. And NXT, they provide context, they have storyline development, and by the time you get to these TakeOver specials, I'm all on board and I'm invested because I want to see the payoff to all this shit. It's not that hard, but WWE makes it harder on this episode than it needs to be. But, so that's enough talking about the NXT Women's title match. Now, the main event, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Samoa Joe for the NXT title. I've talked about it before. I think the build-up to this rematch has been quite good, with Joe, attacking members of the NXT roster, attacking Shinsuke and injuring him and demanding that he be rewarded with the title. Nakamura came back and they've been brawling all over the place, and it's just been very intense and very good. I think this match could have been one where they put a gimmick on it, even if it was just no disqualifications or no holds barred or last man standing, or it doesn't even have to be anything crazy like a ladder match or cage match or anything like that. But I just kind of feel like, yeah, this is a story that would have warranted some kind of a free-for-all gimmick, I think, and they didn't do it, which I was a little surprised. I mean, granted, NXT doesn't do a lot of those anyway, which, again, when they do ladder matches and they do cage matches, it actually feels more special because I don't see it all the time. But, I wish they had... this was a match that they could have slapped some kind of a gimmick onto, and it would have fit the story. But, as is, I think the main event will be fine. Their first match was good, and I think this one will be fine. I expect Nakamura to keep the title. Otherwise, why have him win it in the first place just to drop it right back to Joe? That's just, to me, that's just going backwards to where you were 4 months ago, and it's like, don't really care. But, so I'm thinking Nakamura's going to win. Now, who will Nakamura face after that? We'll see. We'll see. I think, again, that's the other thing. I think NXT's roster right now it's got a few more heels than it does baby faces like Bobby Roode and Austin Aries and a few other guys. So it would probably make more sense to keep it on the babyface Nakamura. But again, we shall see. Overall, I expect the show to be good. I expect another pretty entertaining NXT TakeOver special. Now, unfortunately, I will not be able to watch it live because I have plans tomorrow night to do other things. But I will definitely try to watch it on Sunday prior to Survivor Series. So that should be fun. And actually, Ah, fuck. I might miss Survivor Series too because I got invited to go see Fantastic Beasts with some friends, but we'll see. I don't even know if that's happening yet, so we'll see. But yeah, hopefully I'm able to watch both pay-per-views. At the very least, I have a short week of work next week because of Thanksgiving, so I'll have plenty of time to catch up on both pay-per-views at that point. But those are my thoughts on NXT TakeOver, so let's jump into Survivor Series. Now, whether or not you actually like this card for Survivor Series 2016 will hinge on whether or not you give a shit about the Raw-SmackDown feud. I personally do not, and I guess now would be a good time to talk about the State of the WWE Universe address that happened on Monday night. I didn't see it live, I watched it a few days later, and that got a little awkward. I'm hearing people saying, theorizing that Daniel Bryan is just daring the WWE to fire him, which is why he's kind of like shooting on these things. And, but man, it got a little uncomfortable at points. I don't know how much of that was real, and I don't know how much of that was expected or scripted or whatever the fuck, but it got a little uncomfortable at points. I will say that. But the Raw SmackDown thing, to me, and I'm trying to look at this from a storyline perspective, unless you're Shane or Stephanie, I really don't see why you would give a shit about this. Because I could buy that they want to best each other because they've got personal, shit that they need to work out in much healthier ways. But, again, from a storyline perspective. And I don't understand why the wrestlers would even care. Like, why would Randy Orton give a shit about Raw? Like, it's like, seriously, why would you care? Like, I don't know. Like, what are the wrestlers getting out of this? Like, what? Okay, so if Raw wins all 3 matches, what happens? Nothing. What's the end game of the Raw SmackDown feud? Does Raw want to put SmackDown out of business and vice versa? Can that happen? If not, then why are they feuding? None of this makes any fucking sense. None of this, really works for me. It's just 2 shows that are eerily similar because they come from the same company and have a lot of the same tropes and a lot of the same writing traps. Same exact fucking format. Most of the time, SmackDown is better by virtue of the fact that it's A, shorter, and B, they try harder. They do more with less. But for the most part, it's like both shows are practically the same. It's not like I'm going to get that invested in one over the other. And, I just don't, I just don't see what the big deal is. I really don't. To me, this is just bragging rights all over again. I didn't give a shit about bragging rights. So it's, a bunch of Raw SmackDown matches and one big highlight match, but I'll get there when I get there. Honestly, to me, the two most interesting matches on the card are the 2 that nobody is talking about. That's Miz versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental title, and Brian Kendrick versus Kalisto for the Cruiserweight title. Now, the only reason those matches are interesting to me is that they're interbrand matches with titles on the line, so you could potentially see titles switch brands, which give the wrestlers in those matches a reason to care, gives the wrestlers on the brand a reason to care, and all sorts of other things. So, and I know the IC title match, it was supposed to be Ziggler versus Zayn, but on the 900th episode of SmackDown, Dolph Ziggler dropped the IC title to The Miz, so now it's going to be Miz versus Sami Zayn. Again, it's not that either one of those matches are inherently that interesting, but they could have potentially interesting outcomes that could lead to things. I can very well see them switching belts and just having the IC title go to Raw and then maybe do some kind of a unification angle with the US title and send the Cruiserweight title to SmackDown along with the entire Cruiserweight division, because I think they'll flourish a little bit better over there because, again, SmackDown tries harder. So they'll probably try and make more out of their talents, because right now the Cruiserweight division is shit. It is the worst. It is boring. The matches have no meaning. The matches have no context. It's just guys go out there and do flips, and these guys are all interchangeable. They're all interchangeable. Like, it wouldn't... If Brian Kendrick, he's the only one that stood out at all, because he's the only one that they've given any kind of character development to. And even that is minimal. But if Brian Kendrick goes out there and wrestles Rich Swann one week, and then, let's say Rich Swann wins, and then what happens after that? Nothing. It's like nothing grows, nothing develops. It's just they just throw cruiserweights out there to have matches, and that's it. So I think maybe they'll fix that on SmackDown. So I'm gonna predict that the two titles, the IC title and the cruiserweight title, will kind of switch, and IC title goes to Raw, and they'll do whatever the fuck they want to do with that. And the cruiserweight title goes to SmackDown, and along with the whole cruiserweight division, I think they'll flourish a little bit better over there. Again, fingers crossed. But like I said, the WWE has never done a cruiserweight division well. The closest they've ever come was the Cruiserweight Classic, which was a 10 or 11 episode show centered entirely around cruiserweights, which was very cool and very nice that they did it, but they still haven't successfully integrated cruiserweights into their show, like a successful cruiserweight division. But maybe that'll change if they move to SmackDown. Who knows? Next up, we have the Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series matches. And that is one cool thing about the Raw versus SmackDown thing, is that it is an excuse to get more than one traditional Survivor Series match again, and to get some interesting ones, like the tag team one. Like, that's kind of a throwback to 1987 and 1988, where you had all these tag teams working together in one match, and 20 guys. And it's like, those were fun, and this is kind of harkens back to that, so it's nice to have it. On Team Raw, I believe it's the New Day, Enzo and Cass, the Club, who they don't call the Club anymore, so Gallows and Anderson, the Shining Stars, those timeshare selling bastards. Fuck them. They are they get their heel heat from selling timeshares. Those fuckers. God damn them. And the fifth team is Cesaro and Sheamus. And on Team SmackDown, we have the tag team champions Heath Slater and Rhino, paired up with the Usos, American Alpha, the Hype Bros, because sure, why not? And I want to say Breezango, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm going to pick Team Raw to win this, because Team Raw has Enzo and Cass and the New Day on it, so they're going to get cheered, I would imagine. So I'm going to go with Team Raw to win it, by virtue of having more star power. The only way I could see SmackDown winning it is if American Alpha are the sole survivors, and they want to just, push American Alpha. So I guess if SmackDown's going to win it, it'll be with American Alpha as the sole survivors, but we shall see. Personally, I would have the Usos kind of do something to get heel heat on themselves and cost American Alpha, and by proxy SmackDown, this match, and then that kind of continues the American Alpha Usos feud, which they've kind of dropped in building this up. So hopefully they go back to that and kind of wrap that whole story up. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to pick Team Raw to win this. For the women, again, I think I'm forgetting some of the girls. I think it's Charlotte. For Team Raw, it's Women's Champion Charlotte, Bayley, Becky Lynch, not Becky Lynch, not Sasha Banks. Charlotte, Bayley, Dana Brooke, Alicia Fox, and there's one other. Fuck it, let me look it up. This is most embarrassing. Nia Jax, that's who it was. Okay. Oh, and they replaced. I thought I must have missed something on Raw. Okay, so it's not Dana Brooke, it is Sasha Banks. So, all right. So on Team Raw, it'll be Charlotte, Nia Jax, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Alicia Fox. And on Team SmackDown, it will be the champion Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Nikki Bella, and who's another girl over there? Fucking hell. Should have read this before. Naomi. She's the fifth one. Okay, so yeah, that'll be your Team Raw and your Team SmackDown. I mean, it's interesting. We've got girls that are feuding with each other, and on both shows. You've got Charlotte, who's got problems with Bayley and Sasha, and you've got on SmackDown, you've got Becky, who's got problems with Alexa Bliss, and you've got Nikki, who's got problems with Carmella. So there's a lot of combustible elements there. I imagine that would come into play and cost one of the teams the match. I'm going to go ahead and pick Team SmackDown to win it, because I think there's more of a... Well, no. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to pick Team Raw to win it, because I don't think they want... they've got Charlotte undefeated on pay-per-view, and I think they want to keep that going. And I think to throw that away in a Survivor Series match would be kind of a waste. But actually, no. what's the official status? Is she undefeated on pay-per-view or undefeated in pay-per-view title matches? Because that could be their way of getting around that. But, yeah, I'll go with Team Raw to win it, just to protect Charlotte, if nothing else. But again, I could see that one going either way. I don't know. Yeah, it's just, I think they're going to want to protect Charlotte's record, if I'm correct on that she's undefeated at pay-per-view. So, whatever, we'll go with Team Raw to win it, and that'll be fine. And the last Survivor Series elimination match will be between the heavyweights and the main eventers. On Team Raw, we have Universal Champion Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. And on Team SmackDown, we have World Heavyweight Champion AJ Styles, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, Dean Ambrose, and the Commissioner of SmackDown Live, Shane McMahon. Not Baron Corbin, who it was originally supposed to be until he got injured. Kayfabe storyline-wise, I don't know why else they would take him out of the match. And it's not The Undertaker, who I thought they were going to put into the match based on how the 900th episode of SmackDown was playing out. Undertaker comes out and he makes this big announcement, and Team SmackDown, they're all fighting with each other and they're arguing and they're getting into it with Edge and all this other stuff. Undertaker comes out and basically says, I won't let WrestleMania define my legacy. Okay, does that mean you're going to wrestle at Survivor Series? No, but SmackDown better win. And it was like, okay, well that was pointless. And it's like, all right. What was the point of having Undertaker there again? It's really weird. But yeah, again, I think all these Survivor Series matches could be fun, and that's going to be the thing that kind of saves the show, even though I don't give a shit about the Raw versus SmackDown thing at all. It's like, just having multiple traditional Survivor Series matches on there will be fun, at least. And I think the talents in here could make this match a lot of fun, especially with all three Shield guys, and Braun Strowman to play the monster, and AJ Styles in there, and he's going to be working with guys like Kevin Owens and stuff like that. So I think this match could be really good and really fun. See, it's very interesting, and I guess I will give Survivor Series this much credit. There actually is some kind of... it's not an easy card to predict, but I will pick Team Raw, and it's weird. I actually have I have Raw like sweeping, which is really weird, but I'm gonna pick Team Raw to win because I think Brock Lesnar is going to cost SmackDown and somehow attack Shane McMahon and do something that eliminates him from the match and ultimately cost Team SmackDown. I think that's going to happen, and that will play into my predictions for Goldberg versus Lesnar, which is the final match I'm going to be talking about here. Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. The only way I can see Goldberg winning this match is if Shane McMahon interferes, because I think based on how SummerSlam ended, they want to do Lesnar versus Shane at some point. Why, I don't know. But I'm thinking that that's a match they want to do. So I think they're going to further that on this show, either by Shane costing Lesnar or Lesnar costing Shane or something along those lines. So again, we'll just have to see how that plays out. Now, as for whether or not I actually want to see a Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg match in 2016, the answer to that is no. I did a video talking about it, why I don't want to see it. Goldberg, whenever he's gotten physical, has not looked great, and he was limited even in his prime, so I'm not very hopeful for what he's going to be like. Also, I'm convinced that Lesnar just doesn't give a shit anymore, and he's just there to get a paycheck, so... I mean, I would like to think that this match would not be the disaster that it was at WrestleMania 20, and I doubt it will be, because that was the situation where two guys were on their way out and just didn't give a fuck. I think here is like they put a little bit more effort into building it, and I think they're gonna want to, there are probably still some bad memories from WrestleMania 20, so I think they want to overcome that and actually have a good match. I think. That said, I still don't really want to see the match. I'll pick Lesnar to win, but like I said, I could very well see them doing a scenario where Shane McMahon interferes and costs Lesnar the match. Now, one thing I will say is that even though I don't want to see the match, Goldberg has been the best part of Monday Night Raw whenever he's been on it. Even with the segment with Rusev where he slipped and fell, it's like, dude, he's still the best part of the show. Because he actually feels real. he actually has a goal that he wants to achieve that feels believable, and that he wants to kick Lesnar's ass again. And Heyman keeps taunting him and his family, which just pisses him off. And he comes across as a legit badass through speech, which Goldberg has never been a great speaker, but I guess if you keep it short, sweet, and intense, that's where he shines. And he's been a great presence on the show, believe it or not. And I know that's hard to believe, but it's 2016, and I'm living at a point in WWE where Goldberg is the best part of their show. A 50-year-old Bill Goldberg is the best part of the show. And he is more interesting to watch than Edge and The Undertaker combined. That is bizarre to me. I'm not sure how to handle that. It's really weird, but like Undertaker, I couldn't give two shits about. Edge, I love Edge, but he really didn't add anything to SmackDown. It was like they could have just as easily not had him there. They could have made that. They could have put Miz and given him the talk show segment at the end, and it wouldn't have changed anything. It wouldn't have altered anything. It was just Edge was basically just fancy window dressing, and Undertaker even more so. Goldberg actually, again, through his speech and through this build-up, has actually contributed to the show and provides legitimately interesting and exciting moments on a show that is almost devoid of those things. So, I mentioned it on Twitter, and so did Deluxe Man. So, great minds think alike. What you're seeing from Goldberg now is probably what Roman Reigns should have been, and maybe what they wanted to do, but could never quite achieve with him. Goldberg's just going out there and being Goldberg. He's being this cool badass. And that's what Roman Reigns probably should have been when they first decided to force him down our throats and make him a main eventer, instead of making him this smirking asshole that's trying to be like The Rock but failing, tries to tell jokes but fails, tries to use alliteration, suffer and succotash, but fails. Instead of making him that guy, they probably should have made him something more akin to what you're seeing out of Goldberg. But is Roman Reigns capable of being that? I have no idea. But, as far as speech goes, I'm not sure if he can properly convey that. But, in any case, those are my thoughts on Survivor Series 2016. I would not be surprised if the NXT show once again stole their thunder and put on the better show. That said, I think this Survivor Series card could be fun just by virtue of having 3 Survivor Series matches on there, but I'm not overly interested in it. Again, I don't care about the Raw SmackDown feud, so that alone kind of saps any interest I have in this show. But I'm gonna watch it anyway, and hopefully it's entertaining. But in any case, we shall find out. I'll have reviews for those shows once I actually get around to watching them. Hopefully I can watch Survivor Series Sunday night, and hopefully I can squeeze in NXT as well. And I'll probably have both reviews up sometime Monday or Tuesday. So that'll be fun. But that is all I have for you now. So y'all enjoy your weekend, enjoy your wrestling, and I will see you all next week.